Undefined boundaries. One of my favorites. Part of the problem with undefined boundaries is it forces us into thinking that we need to multitask. Right? When you got stuff coming at you in all angles, the first thing most of us try to do is kind of like, I'm going to do that, and while that's happening, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that over there. We all do it. How many of you have read the research on multitasking? Okay, only a few. So this is actually really interesting. The research, and this was done by people much smarter than me, and they went to places like Harvard and MIT, which I did not go to. Here's what they found that I think is really, really interesting. There is no such thing as multitasking. It doesn't exist. And in fact, what we're actually doing is we're not doing two things at once like we think we are. Now, psychologically, we feel better because we feel like we're making progress on multiple things. What we're actually doing is bouncing back and forth really, really fast between two things. And what they've found is when you do that, you're actually, as you might expect, less effective and less efficient at both of them. And you're actually causing yourself stress. They've actually found that people are literally like 40% less productive and less efficient when they try to multitask. The challenge with undefined boundaries, when we don't draw lines, we're inclined to try to multitask. It's almost impossible not to try to do it. Now, they also found some other stuff like your frontal cortex and your emotional response gets a little messed with when you try to do too much multitasking. And I don't want any part of that. That doesn't sound good. Right? That's all the science I know, and that can't be good. So the point is, what do you do about that? It's not to say that we're going to stop trying to multitask, although I have tried. Like I said, I'm terrible at it anyway, so who cares? I'll give it a shot. But for those of us that do it a lot, like my wife, I'll go to my wife's computer screen, and she has, I'm not kidding you, 23 tabs open. And I look at that, and I'm like, I'm going to have an aneurysm right now. I literally cannot comprehend what is happening on your computer, right? Now, she thinks she's doing it all just fine, and we joke about it all the time. But the point is, ultimately, if we were to do a study, we're probably being less effective and efficient when we have all that stuff going on at the same time. So what did I do? I took a massive risk on this one. I said, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to implement strict compartmentalization, right? Which is the opposite of no boundaries. Now, I actually remember sitting at a client. One of the things I do for this client is I develop a top talent program for them. And part of that is they get to sit with the top executives of the company and just have like panel discussions with them about what's important. It's really cool to like watch it happen. And one of the things that came up in this discussion was work-life balance. And it kind of came up unsolicited from some of the participants. And I'll tell you something about this company. It's probably the hardest driving company that I work with. Like they're cranking all the time, and it's all about the numbers, and they do not miss schedules, and they pump stuff out. So it's a pretty high-stress environment. It's also a high-output environment, so they do a really good job. So obviously the notion of work-life balance comes up. And one of the things they asked these two executives, and it was a man and a woman up there, and they both had really interesting answers, said, well, how do you get work-life balance in this environment? What do we do? And what one of them said was, here's the thing. No one is going to remember or care if you went home 3 days a week and blocked out family dinner with your family. No one cares. What we care about, and this is coming from a super hard driving place, did you get the work done and did you do it in the right way, right? No one's going to remember that you blocked out time for your family, right? No one's going to remember that. And then the male leader said, look, 2 days a week, and this is a high-level guy, 2 days a week, I leave at 3:30. Because I decided that I want to coach my kids' sports teams. I don't want someone else coaching them. He's got a bit of a control thing, but he wants to make sure that they're having a good experience. And I totally get it, man. I've seen some of those coaches. I'm like, wow, maybe I should coach. I know nothing about soccer, but I'll get out there. And so I get why he's doing it, right? And so and everybody knows he does it. And so he said, look, it'll literally eat you alive if you don't set your own boundaries. And so I tried it. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to compartmentalize. So similar to what I talked about with ruthless prioritization, I said, let's go with ruthless compartmentalization. Let's try this. And I literally blocked out time. And the conversation that happened in that room was the exact same fear that I had. Am I going to kill my career by doing this? Am I going to literally kill my ability to keep my clients? Because literally the dude next to me running his own consulting practice will say, you can text me anytime. When I'm saying, you can't text me at this point and get a response because I'm family time for that. Am I going to kill my career? And what I learned is, similar to the other two, the strict compartmentalization did not kill my career at all. And in fact, what it did, and this was the kind of unanticipated counterintuitive response, I enjoyed my work more when I blocked out my family time first. And that was a really interesting counterintuitive thing that I learned. I was better at my job, I was faster at my job, and I actually enjoyed what I was doing because I wasn't doing my job with the elephant on my shoulder of, I can't get to the family stuff right now, how am I going to do this? I wasn't constantly thinking about that. So I actually learned in my own experience that strict compartmentalization actually benefited me in lots of ways, not just making me feel like I didn't have to multitask, but I actually found that I enjoyed what I was doing more and I was better at it on both sides of the equation, on work and life. Now it's a risk, like I said, it's hard to draw lines, especially when we live in a world where technology is undrawing lines. And so it's a risk and it can feel like one. But I can tell you from my own experience, it worked quite well.